Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I am back to the video, guys. I know I was hoping about guys. I've been on a hiatus, but back now with a new video. Today's story is called The Life in Papa's Room. It was the year of my 20th birthday that my dad told me he was sick. It was hard to hide, really, obviously, but I suppose it would be hard for such a mountain of a man to someone who never needed help from anyone to admit that he was in fact dying. Cancer is a nasty thing. It kills you from inside and out. I had seen both my grandparents perish from the disease, but with my dad, it was different. Having just started my first year in nursing school, I was eager to take care of him. He was a very grumpy personality man who didn't like outsiders. The idea of dying in hospital always some strange twist in his head just didn't sit right with him. So besides the home care nurse who came to check on him twice a week, I became a sole caretaker of my father. I put school on hold and cut my hours down at the restaurant where I was waitressing. My dad became my sole priority. He perished quite quickly. His cancer had already at stage 4 when he finally came clean about it. He was very clear on what he wanted after he said no longer with me. A cremation, quick and easy. Plus, he knew I was young and struggling student and really couldn't afford much else. Who would come to my funeral? Anyone, he joked. I gave him what he wanted. A year or so later, I was officially a certified RN, perhaps on the guilt I hadn't sold the house that belonged to my father, or maybe I just couldn't bring myself to let it go. Either way, I wish I had shown it more love than I did. A few months down the line, I met a nice man. Let's call him Johnny, who I shrugged off a few times, considering I hadn't dated since I was about 21. But he was persistent enough and the best man I ever met, besides my father. I fell for him on our very first date. Before long, we were married and soon therefore pregnant with our first child, a little boy who named after my father, Stephen Short. The name Short because Iron Man was my dad's favorite comic. Shortly after we were married, my husband realized that neither of us a small probably could fit the raised house, and inquired the lease. Didn't you say your dad left you the house? My stomach dropped. Indeed, I had mentioned it, but I hadn't been to the house since my dad passed away. I kept up his property taxes because I said I couldn't seem to let it go. But living there, it felt like a horrible idea. Still, he was insistent we go check it out, and I will agree. We needed a house after all. My hands shook as I turned the key in the lock. I took a deep breath and slowly pushed open the door. Aside from the dust and lack of furniture, photos, and everything that made the house a home, it was exactly as I remembered. I entered cautiously, Johnny behind me, kissing my cheek and telling me it was okay. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a shimmer of blue and silver, a balloon I had forgotten my dad for his last Father's Day. He waited and tapped on the door of the room where he had slept in. I hadn't taken it down. My God, it's beautiful. Look at these flowers, my husband dear. This is a real word, say. I smiled and looked at the marble. He continued through the house and decided and shook in place, revealing that the center of the home. I spent my entire life it was bittersweet, and as the house knew I was back, I chuckled at the sight of the marks on the wall beside the living room. So my father had documented my height every time I drew it. Everything seemed exactly the same. The only thing missing was that. Like, I turned my head quickly in the direction of what I used to be in my father's room. but there was no way. The door was closed, but the light was twinkling. No, not just the light. The room, the pictures itself was being swept, moving, but there was no way. I held the door slowly. I reached down to the handle and paused. Here, calm down, Ray. I whispered aloud. Then it happened again. Licked more aggressively this time. Without even thinking, I pushed the door open. Daddy? Nothing. No light, no flickering. Nothing. Only the dust of a few great grandmother antiques that was neglected to get rid of. I didn't know I was expecting to hear Johnny's voice approach from behind Ray. His house is amazing. I can't believe you have to receive it. It seems to a little work I can do all of it by myself. He won't spend a penny. I promise, he said, wrapping his arms around my belly. I mean that if you want. He looked into my hidden eyes and over my head. This was your dad too? I nodded. He gave me a smile, that absolutely Prince-Charming smile. It spread on his bright blue eyes, the smile that won me over. The first time we went out, I think I made a perfect miracle. But he please. The months flew by quickly and soon we welcomed our home and our sweet bundle of joy. A healthy baby boy. I quickly came to call George. I was smitten and I was sitting in it of my father. Hands thin, dark, silky hair, all expected his eyes were of bright blue like my husband. Johnny had kept his promise and done an amazing job fixing up a small part of the house that needed it. Parenthood was simply a blissful for us. Our baby was happy and so long while it felt like home. That is, until that one night. George and I were preparing for bed. He fell asleep in my arms as usual, and I went to put him in his bed. That was when it happened. The light in his bedroom began flickering violently, and he wouldn't stop. It was enough to trigger a paralytic seizure that cut over my head, legs, and approached the lamp on the nightstand. The flickering also began. What the hell? My deep voice stayed soundlessly. So I brushed it off and made him quick and settled on telling my husband the room needs to be rewired the next day. But it didn't help. Over the next few months, we rewired the room completely. There 3 times in fact, nothing seemed to work. The strange thing was that I only flickered at night. Every night. That's when I started hearing the silence in the staircase. Doc and I were often alone at night, seeing as how Johnny didn't get off work until afterwards. Everywhere all over the house the lights started flickering, even if I hadn't turned them on, or so much as a torch. The switch. It became uncontrollable. I started letting my baby boy sleep with me, with the doors to our bedroom shut. I didn't sleep until I heard the soft closing of the door indicating that my husband was home, and faced his warm chest on the only bed in the house I thought I knew well. Did I feel safe? Johnny tried to keep his ears together as best he could, but he couldn't see that I was falling apart. I wasn't sleeping nor eating. The house I'd been so happy as a child was a living nightmare for me at night. We can leave, baby, my husband said. We can move back into the city and close to my parents. They're helpless, George. They love you both. His beautiful eyes always lit up with hope, and I just couldn't bear it. He did everything to fix up the house for our little family. My dad has done everything to maintain it. It was just for us while he was alive. I couldn't just abandon it. So this time, just like last, I told him it was just us being a new mom, and he just fine. Stop being thinking bothered by it all, and that was truly mattered to me. Days went by, eventually weeks, months, years, and soon my little bundle was complete. No freaking way, nothing. I had come to accept that the instant early had been nothing more than a product of Mother Nature, and left it at that. But then Philip came, and he had grown into a brilliant young man, and I suppose that's how all parents do their kids. Not only was the polite speaking of it as powerful as someone new to teenage, but he had a soothing sing for days. So when I heard him talking about things up in his room one day, I thought nothing of it. Then he did something that stopped me dead in tracks. He sang a long, forgotten tune that I hadn't heard from the previous day. Yet he recited it so perfectly. I turned it down and stood by his bench. Look, that turns me. Playing with his toys, he sung, "Don't be afraid, don't fly his hand." I said of the monster that lurked under the bed. Don't be scared of the one who read. I will protect you even when I'm dead. I gasped and tears from my eyes. So I said more sharply than intended. He turned to me and smiled. His beautiful eyes lit up. Yes, Mommy? I felt that and cleared myself. Where did you hear that? What were you just singing? He smiled and said, "From Papa, Mama. He sung it to me every night." He said he had been silent little. My blood ran cold. There was no way my thoughts wasn't lying. My father, the one that promised me that I was old enough to remember, how could I trust a secret about his knowledge of someone he'd never met? I wouldn't mention it to Bob. Things had been going so well. He had his own sewing business now, and he's been living a wonderful life. No need to mess it up. It has to be dollars. Buck's birthday went great, of course. It was the same theme it had been in previous years, the Avengers. But each year a different Avenger was chosen. This year happened to be the one we voted for, Iron Man. It was all going so well until we got ready to sing Buck's birthday song. Buck got sad and just became the person on his wall. He continued anyway, and midway through, his eyes darted towards a very splendid pavilion with no hesitation at all. His face grew wide with a smile as he said, "Papa, Papa, he came." He leaped out of his chair and joined me to be his friend. We were both so confused, in fact, that neither of us noticed that Spark was running straight out the door. "Spark, baby, stop!" I just after him. Charlie and the rest of the party gets close behind me in the kid's house. "Really short," I snapped. I charged back and twisted, faced him heavy. "Spark, what the hell were you thinking? You don't do that. You knew better." His little eyes welled with tears. "I'm sorry, Mama. I just want to be with Papa." The lights of the rest of the room sometimes they flickered at night, and I had to. Papa told me that one way they stopped with eyes on him. I love Papa, Mama. We don't move. We do speak our home. I don't know why, but I refuse. I told it to leave, and it never left. It comes back, and I wish it had been that easy. Whatever it is, it's insistent, and it's still around months later. It never left, but it never brought us any harm. It slams doors, makes me fall, but no harm has ever come to it. Sonny or myself, and I realize now that this just might be my father after all. And to this day, the lights still flicker in Papa's room. Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this. So if that helps, is that my Patreon? Please subscribe to Patreon, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe for more content like this. I have actually linked below my Patreon and channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.